So what would a therapy session look like on like a day-to-day basis? Is it like, do you tailor, obviously you tailor the sessions to each individual person, but what would like a session like be with me, for example? How would it go? First of all, they come into my life at sort of later stage when they're at the early days. And you know what, it started off as a weekend thing really. But I just don't feel like he's got the time for me anymore, you know. I understand relationships work both ways, but I feel like it's just me at the moment. You know, I've always been waiting for that connection, you know, that bond that you get.
That father-son bond.
I'm not talking about my dad. I'm talking about doing the podcast with Jack. And we're off. Episode 23 of the...
Does that sound good? Proper ASMR. JJ. Oh, wow.
This isn't just any cup of tea. This is an M&S cup of tea.
I love it.
So episode 23 of the Minerva podcast.
It is, yeah.
And we're here drinking tea. Who's the sponsor today, Jack?
Herbaholics.
And where are the Herbaholics from, Jack?
So Herbaholics is a... I'll get back by the mic now, that can be yours. So Herbaholics is a new tea company. I just wanted to be quiet.
That noise is
unbelievable, isn't
quite,
it?
Yeah, you
imagine just
it.
Listening to that, like, oh, you just know they're having a good time.
So the rest of the podcast everything is Jack pouring tea.
Or it could just be someone having a very long week.
So we've had to record this in Jay's bathroom for anyone listening. Do you want the rest of that?
Have you got one?
Yeah, I've got some, yeah.
So the sponsor this week's Herbaholics, a brand new, amazing local tea company. And I met the guy who runs it yesterday to get the teas because he sponsored the podcast. And like, do you know when you meet someone and they've just got a passion and like he just lives and breathes it? And I was like, so what's that good for? What's that good for? And he was like, oh, that's for this, that's for this. So like El Rey, yeah, which is like what he said started them on the journey. It's got Yebra, I think, or Yebra, I don't know how you pronounce it, and licorice root. And he said despite its name, it doesn't taste like licorice. He said it's proper sweet. But he was telling me all about the benefits of it. And I was just, do you know when you're just watching someone like, you know so much more about this than me. But like, when someone talks about something and it makes them happy, do you know what I mean? And you're like, he's smashing it, he loves it. So that was kind of the encounter. I know him as well, I've known him for years.
And what's this one, Jack?
And that's called the Bee's Knees. What we're sipping on here. Cheers, by the way.
Bee's Knees.
Yeah, but he said since he started, he was like, it's going, cheers on the
Cheers.
He said it's going incredibly well.
Cheers.
Incredibly well, because he loves like natural, like similar to Nat with cakes and stuff. Like that's what we're talking about. Like it's like a science, isn't it? Knowing what's good for what kind of ailment and stuff. And he said someone messaged him, seeing on his story, saying like, I don't know what you put in that tea, but like I usually need at least a blunt or two to get my head down before I'd never be asleep before 12. And like he had a cup of tea before bed and was a kid by 11.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And he was like, and that's what I love. He's like just helping people like know that you don't need to be having a drink for bed.
It's mad that your tea can actually do that though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's the same as a
It's
drink.
how
It's a plant,
herbal,
isn't it?
do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's herbal, yeah.
100%. And I can't lie, it actually tastes delicious. Like it's
It is lovely.
actually...
Oh, what? That is the Bee's Knees.
It is the Bee's Knees. I was going to say, I don't know, that's too much of a...
I reckon we should reorganise this whole podcast and just talk about tea.
Yeah.
And hot beverages for the whole thing.
That's all that matters, isn't it?
Pop the Bovril Carlo one
He
she
said
loved
you can
last
have
night.
that with like milk as well, like a bit
Really?
of honey. Yeah.
Ooh.
El Rey there, like that's more like of a leafy tea, but he said you can have that with like a milk. Oh, that's so nice.
It's actually unreal. It actually is
lovely,
really nice. Like it's
So,
one of
yeah.
those things where you drink it and you feel like your life changes automatically.
Yeah. Have you ever?
It's like a sip.
I know what you mean. When you've had like, so I done it. What did I do that with recently? It was like, I remember when I was a kid. My mum and dad would always have black pudding on a full English, a roast. Black pudding on a full English, and I was like, and then one day I just tried it, and I was like, why have I deprived myself of this deliciousness all my life? And I know it's not the best for you, but the flavours
Is
in
it
it.
sheep blood?
People say it's blood, but it's a little bit of blood, and it's mainly oats. But that was the first thing.
Still blood, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like eating meat, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's just the same. It's like a steak, yeah. But anyway, sorry, that encounter would change my perception on food to like, imagine what else you've been saying no to. So now I just say yeah to everything and then feel sick after it if I don't like it. But I'd rather take that risk because
Yeah.
imagine what you're missing out on.
I love
It's a
it.
good way to
It is. but that just changed because I used to be very fussy with food.
Really?
Yeah, when
Like
I
you
would-
wouldn't try things?
Not that I wouldn't try things, but I was like, don't like it.
Yeah.
And my mum would be like, you haven't had it? But like, yeah, but I
Don't
no,
like it
don't
though.
like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. Don't.
mad.
Yeah, it looks mad. That.
I think everyone's
It's broccoli. Like that's mad. That.
everyone's
Them
like that as
trees.
a kid. I remember I used to hate, like, I used to have a genuine I used to hate sprouts with a passion.
Yeah.
I remember one Christmas, like, they all made sprouts, and my dad
One of
was
the
like,
best parts
I
of it.
love
and my dad was
sprouts.
like, if you don't eat your sprouts, we'll get all the presents back to Santa. And I went, looked at the sprouts, looked at my dad, and went, all right then.
You really didn't want them, did you?
I couldn't. I hated them that much. And then I think it was in my dad's like Christmas, I think, this year. I was like, you know, I actually quite like now. He went, what? I went sprouts, and he went, the amount of grief you give us over them. How many ones you to eat? 3 as well.
Literally.
Gets all your Sky Electric stuff. It's like jail was on your messenger. Yeah.
We had them.
But anyway, yeah, Herbaholics. Check them out on Insta. We'll tag them in the bio.
Delicious.
We haven't
Would
even
recommend
introduced
to
you.
know.
We haven't even introduced
Hi, everyone.
It's because we spoke before. I love that when you talk just before and
Yeah.
it just flows. In.
Yeah.
It
So our
does.
guest this week, the fabulous Nihad.
Hi. I don't even know what camera I'm looking into. I'm like literally it's like 25.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a professional setup, innit?
It's sick. It's amazing. It feels like an actual production. Well done. You've done a good job. It's a full-on production.
We had a compliment the other week. Beck come and she was like, it's proper professional, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
And me and him were just like, yeah, proper professional. Yeah, we knew that, yeah. But like, we just
Took on my shirt and I was like,
but just because I don't know, it is very professional.
It is.
Like the setup is the studio, of course, but for me and Jay, we take it seriously. It's not,
do.
but we have a laugh.
do we?
But like we wouldn't just we plan on like we are professional, but like to get that compliment, I was like,
Yeah.
that must be working. We haven't like tried to be professional, but
It's just you just ooze professionalism, don't
Yeah.
you? Can't help it.
I've tried to make it haven't I? You know what it is? I dress like a tramp and not a tramp, but I always just wear like
Dressing gown.
trackies and my dressing gown and my pajamas.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave the house. I'm like, I want to put something alright on here, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming out
makes
-2 with a pair of jeans on.
pair of jean shorts.
I love it. Jean shorts. I saw someone in shorts today. Blew me mind.
Mad,
I've
isn't
seen
it?
several people in shorts. Yeah.
Were they running? Were they running or just
Running,
walking?
all sorts. Honestly, I feel like some people are literally just like
Built for the cold.
numb to cold weather. Honestly, I am the Michelin man when I leave the house. Like I am
Wrapped up.
layered up.
Can't imagine.
Honestly,
I-
I love it.
I
My sister's like that. She's wrapped up in the house.
Yeah, I just hate being cold. Honestly, we had this
I
conversation.
don't like being cold. My Scottish heritage helps me about it, I reckon.
Being with thick skin.
Used to be in the Highlands and that, do you know what I mean?
But anyway, on with the podcast. So yeah, so we've thank you for coming on first
Thank
of
you
all.
for
I know you
having me,
mentioned you've had a
guys.
bit of a busy day as well.
Busy
Nearly
day.
cancelled, so I'm glad you never.
Oh God,
Very
I'm
glad
glad
you
to be
never.
here. Thanks for having me.
Because I couldn't have just been with him.
We've done 3 now.
We've done
3 too many.
3 too many on and on.
3 too many.
But the reason we would like to have a conversation with you
Yes.
is just to talk about how amazing you are and everything you do.
Don't.
Honestly.
Are you guys? Who paid you to say that?
Who paid you to?
Who paid you to
I'll give
say
you that
that?
father later. No, honestly, because the work you do, and especially because I've known you, I remember when. Did you go to like was it St. Lucia or a mad island?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, yeah, for like a placement, a mental
Yeah,
health placement.
yeah.
When we worked together, I wanted to save this for the podcast, Jay.
Yeah.
I was like, she went somewhere mad. He was like, where? I was like, I'll tell you in the podcast.
Yes, cute as you could.
exclusive. But yeah, and you told me, and you was like, oh yeah, a mental health podcast, and I was like, a mental health podcast, a mental health placement.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, wow, she's taking mental health seriously there, and you was in uni,
Yeah.
and you got me onto the Celestine Prophecy.
I did.
Yeah, and
Gosh,
that
what
was
a book.
that blew me away. That
Did it?
Yeah, and that kind of
Really?
opened me up to kind of looking after yourself mentally
Incredible.
and spiritually and stuff. So, yeah.
Amazing.
So knowing you from then, what you do now, you knew back then you was going to do this, didn't you? So
I had a
amazing.
feeling. It's bizarre. It's not even. Do I even call it a feeling? I don't know what to call it. It's just it just starts off as an interest. As all things do, I think. No matter what you
Which,
do,
mental health?
mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, being in this profession, and I'm a therapist, by the way, guys.
this has been so back and forth. So yeah, first of all, tell the people what you do and then go on to your what's in this? What's in this? Yeah.
Ready to sleep already?
I know,
No.
I'm feeling
Are you feeling wild? But no, so I work as a psychological therapist, I work as a CBT therapist, so that's essentially cognitive behavioural therapy, and I work with a primary care service, so I particularly see clients with depression and anxiety. So, of course, under the bracket of anxiety falls things like social anxiety, OCD, PTSD, generalized anxiety, and I work within a primary care service. So what that means is that it's often the space in which we see people with the first episode of a mental health difficulty. As you can imagine, it's never usually the case because people struggle for a very long time before they often come forward for therapy. But yeah, I suppose in a nutshell, that is what I do. I talk to people. I talk to people. I help them make sense of what it is that they're going through and engage in different interventions focused on helping to, I suppose, alleviate and decrease symptoms of depression and anxiety and help them manage and live a good life, essentially.
Boss.
That was great, that, you know.
And you put out, that was, yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Podcast over.
So, yeah, we should have started with that, really, guys. So if you've tuned out by now, tune back in because we're actually getting to the nitty gritty now. Yeah. But as well as being amazing in a professional standard of that side, like on the other side, putting content out, I know that is part of the profession, but you're helping people with the content as well, which is unbelievable, especially now, like it's needed, isn't it? And even on your Instagram, you say like Instagram isn't therapy, which is so crucial to be like, it's not therapy.
It's not therapy.
It might help you, but it's not therapy.
Absolutely not. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to create your guide, like you said, was not only because I felt like there was a need for it, especially now, but also because I think for a long time as like a society and a culture, we've been really trying to fight against social media, haven't we? Like, it's bad for you, we should get off it. And yes, of course, some truth to that. But I also think that clearly we're not reaching people, you know, within the therapy space, within psychological space, and within, I suppose, mental health as a whole. Yes, there's loads and loads of activism and advocacy and everything for mental health, which is incredible. But we're not reaching enough people because not enough people are seeing it as okay to get help and support with what it is that they're struggling with. So I just thought, right, rather than trying to fight with something which isn't going anywhere, why not meet the people where they are? You know, why not meet them in the middle and offer the support to them in a way which, of course, isn't therapy because, again, Instagram is not therapy, but almost sort of giving them the information that they need to develop a more, I suppose, a more
understanding,
exactly, a greater understanding of what's going on for them, normalise it in the process, and almost sort of create a little bit of a community as well, whereby people are feeling safe to connect, to share, to you know, address their problems as well, even like comments and things like, you know, from your own posts as well, when people comment like, oh, that was really helpful, it's amazing
that
because someone else someone else will see that and be like, oh, well, that must mean that they must be struggling with something like that too, and they found this useful.
Absolutely.
So me finding it useful doesn't make me odd or mad or bizarre.
Alone,
it makes me human, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a hard work, I'm not gonna lie. It is really difficult, but absolutely the most rewarding thing in the world.
Back to what we were saying just before that about always being on the path and knowing that. So when did you know, like, because how old was you when we met? About 18, 19 in uni?
So yeah.
So
did we meet in uni or in River Island?
When you was in uni. Sorry, we met in River Island, but you was in uni. I remember when we met and we were just discussing what you do. I'll do this. I was like, he was going to Sri Lanka, I think, and I was like, that's mad, that. I was like, for mental health, and he was like, yeah. And I think you'd said as well, I think it might have been yourself, in Ghana, Ghana you're originally from?
It is, yes.
In Ghana, I think we spoke about dementia. Did you say that it's not like a recognised thing in Ghana because your family's always around you and stuff, and like, so like in the West, like obviously elderly people, you move away from your mum and then they go in a home and they're on their own, they have a chance to forget. Nihad informed me that like in countries like Ghana or like where the family's always there, you don't have a minute to forget who you are. So like, so it's not actually recognised in Ghana, no?
It's not a thing. So I mean, it's really, well, I speak on that because obviously when I've lived there till I was about 7 and then moved here. Obviously we go back all the time, but at the time I remember when we moved back here, moved to the UK, and we sort of were hearing about dementia and things. I was like, what is dementia? Like, can someone explain, like, make sense of it with me? And a lot of my friends, bless them, were having they had like grandparents who were suffering with it, and it was heartbreaking because they almost describe it as like a death, but a witness death, exactly. Like 100%. You're watching somebody die, and it was just absolutely awful for them. And I was really trying to make more sense of it, and I was like, I don't think that I've ever heard of this happening to old people in Ghana. It just wasn't, it just was not something that I heard of. And recently I was having a conversation with my mum. I was driving her to work and we were talking about dementia because she works as a healthcare assistant. So she sees, you know, people who are older and struggling with these things every single day, essentially. And we were talking about, I was like, isn't it bizarre that we just didn't hear about these things in Ghana, and we didn't know about people suffering with it, and we didn't even have a name for it or understood it in any way. And she was like, Nihad, it's not really a thing. Like, it just isn't something that you really experience or know people experiencing much in Ghana particularly. And in those sorts of more collective societies, because you are constantly around people, like you said, like
keeping the mind stimulated.
Exactly. Like within even the way in which our houses are built. It's the
separation
huge exactly well,
like in the West, sorry, like houses are separated,
exactly.
but like in certain countries, the big rooms and you're all living in one room.
Exactly that. Everyone's living in one room. Everyone's living in one sort of compound as well. So like your nan is there, and then your auntie's next door, and then like your cousins there. Everybody is pretty much in the same sort of space together.
Best way to live.
Best way to live.
Oh
like,
God,
absolutely. Because you find that now. Like I remember when I was younger, all my family lived by each other, and now I think everyone's at least a drive away. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's just like a generational and a culture thing, because like it takes there's a famous saying, I don't know who said it, I think it might have been Hillary Clinton actually, it takes a village to raise a child. But it does, like
it does.
I think she did.
Hillary Clinton 2002.
I think she did.
Clinton et al.
Clinton et al. Brackets 02. No, but like I was raised by like my nan and a bit of my auntie sometimes, and like that is like it, the saying
works.
has sense.
Do you know
and
what I
it
love?
works, and that's what. Go on, sorry.
Go on, carry on, lad. I interrupted you. Then carry on.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. Lost my train of thought there.
No, I love though when you speak to somebody and they're like, just call me Nan. And you're like, where does she live? She's only next door but one.
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean?
That's
like, I love
boss,
that. I wish I lived next door to me Nan.
But that's how
you were saying about your auntie.
Nuts. God, I like that one.
I was trying to like get you to remember what you were saying.
But basically what I was getting to in there, Nihad, before I was rudely interrupted.
But listen, for the people watching at home,
they know it.
Count how many times I've interrupted. Count how many times I interrupt him.
I know. I make a deal of it when you interrupt me. You just get on with it and expect it from me. But when he interrupts me, I'm like, are you how dare you?
Papa's snarling me for the rest of the podcast.
One time when you were like, I thought I was saying something.
Funny that way, innit?
So what were you saying, Jack?
Sorry, I thought I was speaking, but that must have just been in my own head. That was funny. But anyway, so I was like brought up always in my aunties, and my mum and dad were always present, but like go to your nans or go to your aunties, and that's how human beings are supposed to be, isn't it? You're not meant to be like we are, like bands, like human beings are from a band, tribes, however it's classified, a big group, isn't it?
100%.
And so was that like something you noticed immediately, like when you came over to the UK, like whoa, it's quite like family isn't as close, or
yeah and no.
Did you notice this later on when your friends told you of their experiences?
Absolutely. So definitely later on, I think obviously being quite young and having friends, I don't know whether this plays a role too, but because, you know, obviously when I started school, immediately I sort of became friends with people who were also from different countries, because you just clicked it. It just makes sense. And you know, I'm best friends with one of my friends, Erica, who, you know, was actually from Colombia. So family is a huge thing which was a huge thing for her as well. So that meant that there wasn't that much of a shock to me, because the people who I was around were very much family oriented. So I think it's more so when I got older and I started to sort of obviously make more friends and understand different family dynamics and how, you know, some people can be raised by just uncle and no mum and dad, and, you know, just how different life can be for certain people, and that's just life as a whole, isn't it? That's when I started to recognise that. But I think more so when I started uni as well and started to learn a little bit more about culture and the differences between collectivist societies and individualistic societies. Obviously within the Western society, we are more individualistic. We're very sort of encouraged to live independently, encouraged to sort of strive for success on our own, be better, you do
self-made,
exactly, all of that. That was the thing, that's the push, and it still is, isn't it? Whereas in collectivist societies, it's more about, okay, what can we do as a family, how can we support the family, and it's very much that was the mindset essentially. So I think the more I started to learn about psychology and human behaviour and the way in which society and culture influences the way that we think and feel and behave, is when I then started to recognise that absolutely it is the differences within the way in which we're encouraged to live which has a long-term impact, and I suppose a general impact on our well-being and our mental health overall.
So then did that spark your interest in helping people? Did you always know you was going to help people in some way in that?
I think
regard?
so. Yeah, I think so. But again, so both my parents have been in a space where they've worked within jobs that have been about helping other people. And I think maybe just hearing about their experiences of it, you know, just like heartwarming stories, obviously difficult stories as well, but hearing them come home and share what work was like for them, just I don't know, just being around them and knowing that they were making such a difference to people's lives, I think must have obviously influenced me in some way and sparked an interest in me wanting to do the same thing. And then I think psychology just being such an interesting thing to me, I think it was meant to be.
The perfect match, the perfect storm.
Literally, it was meant to be. It was the perfect storm, and I just fell into it, and I absolutely love it. Yeah.
So what would a therapy session look like on like a day-to-day basis? Is it like, do you tailor, obviously you tailor sessions to each individual person, but what would like a session like be with me, for example? How would it go?
Oh God, it's terribly.
How long have we got?
Just charge it within seconds.
Such Jack then, sorry.
So for anyone who's watching here and would think, you know what, I might go to therapy, what's the first step and what's the sessions like? Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
He didn't want you to shrink him.
Put me under.
Tell me about why I'm such. Tell me about why I always interrupt.
Have some insights into this, please. So it depends. It depends really on who it is that you're seeing. So
Of course.
there's lots of different, I suppose, avenues into therapy, and also lots of different types of therapy that you're getting. So I mean, I'm going to speak from a CBT perspective and from a primary care perspective, because that's all I know, and I feel like I'd do a disservice to other professions. However, just to sort of give people a bit of an idea about the differences, so obviously there's counsellors, there's psychotherapists, and there's clinical psychologists, and they all offer talking therapies essentially to help with mental health difficulties. Obviously there's like life coaches and stuff like that who are phenomenal at helping people to sort of, you know, change habits, change mindset, you know, really work on self-development and things like that also. So essentially, you know, who it is that you go to is dependent on what your needs are and what it is that you feel you're struggling with. So if you're going to see a counsellor, counsellors are, again, please, anyone who's a counsellor, I'm not a counsellor, so if I define what it is that you do in
do you find yourself having to say that to clients? Like, I say I'm not a therapist.
All the time.
Like,
I'm not.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
not a
counselling.
doctor. Yeah, I'm not, but I can tell you about it.
Exactly. All the time. So counselling it's very different to CBT, because CBT is very sort of goal directed. So what we mean by that, we sort of, yes, we touch on past experiences, and I mean, I personally do, and because I want to understand how people's early experiences have influenced the way that they think and the way they're behaving now. However, we don't really hone in on the past quite a lot. We don't really our whole focus of therapy isn't just about the past. In CBT, it's very much focused on the present moment. What's happening in your life right now? How have your experiences influenced what's happening in your life right now? But what is it that you want to change about life now? And counselling is a little bit different, because I suppose counselling almost affords the space in which you can really delve into the past a little bit more, talk about things like grief. You know, you can't really CBT grief because it's sadness. You can't challenge sadness. If someone's lost somebody, you can't do CBT on it, because it's something that you can't challenge. Of course you're going to feel sad, you know, that's an emotion you're going to experience. So within counselling, you're in that space where you're given room to feel that and experience that and really find ways to, I suppose, sit with those really difficult feelings. Now with CBT, again, it's quite structured. It's a structured approach to therapy. So you have an agenda, you have a goal for therapy, which you agree with the client. Of course, it's the client's goals, it's not your own goals. And therapy is very much focused on taking the steps to engage in different interventions to help the client to meet their goals. So in terms of the process of therapy, we get referrals from GPs also, as well as self-referrals as well, so people can refer themselves into our service or be referred by their GPs. And what happens typically when they come to myself, so what I do is obviously CBT, but we call it step 3 therapy, which is high intensity psychological therapy. So when they reach the point at which they're engaging in therapy with myself or someone else who's a step 3 CBT therapist, we would carry out an assessment initially, which everybody does differently, but for me, what I would do is get an understanding about what your presenting difficulties are. What is it that you're really struggling with? Within the assessment session, I want to hear people's story. You know, what's brought you here? How has it influenced how you think about yourself, how you think about your world, how do you think about your future and other people in your life? How is it that you're behaving? What is it that you're doing day to day that's maybe keeping you within this sort of stuckness that you may be feeling? And what is it that you would like to be different about your life? You know, what is it that you would like to change about it? And if that thing was to change, how would we know? So I like to have like an objective, quite specific idea about what it is that they'd be doing differently. So rather than, I just want to be happy. Okay, well, if you were happier, how would your life look differently? If I was a fly on a wall and I was watching you as a happier person, what would you be doing more of that you're not doing anymore? You know, what would you be doing less of that you're not that you're currently doing? So it'd be things like, okay, well, if I was happier, I'd be in bed less. I would be actually calling my friends back. I'd be texting them back when they text me. I'd actually be, you know, eating a little bit more. How often would you be eating? I'd want to be eating, you know, regularly, so about 3 meals a day. Really specific goals, and we work through this together, and that changes as we go through the course of therapy, because the more we do work together, the more we discover new goals. So that's what it begins with. And I suppose talking about other things like safeguard and risk, you know, if they're having any, you know, quite suicidal thoughts, self-harm, and just general I suppose safeguarding issues that need to be addressed. And then from there, you know, we sort of just hit the ground running then. So I try to help them to come up with a little bit of a formulation, and what we call a formulation is something that helps us to come up with a little bit of a diagram of an understanding of what's going on and what's keeping the problem going. So really simple, we call it a 5 areas formulation. And again, it's the way in which we sort of understand how an experience or a situation influences thoughts, feelings, behaviours, and the physical experiences. So a quick example could be somebody's come into therapy and they're really struggling with depression because of coronavirus. So the situation is, well, you know, when coronavirus hit and I lost my job, I started to feel really low. Okay, so what kind of thoughts are you having? Well, I feel like, I'm thinking that I'm a failure. I'm thinking that I'm worthless. What thoughts are you having about your future? I think my future's hopeless. I don't see anything positive that's going to happen within it. And when you think that, how does that make you feel? I feel really sad. I feel really hopeless. It makes you feel quite anxious and quite scared. And then what do you do when you have those thoughts and those feelings? Well, you know, I just stay in bed. I just watch TV. But when I'm watching it, I'm quite numb to what's going on to it. My friends try and call me all day, but I don't answer the phone. And then what do you feel physically? What's different about your body then, you know, in terms of physiology? You're noticing that you're sleeping less, you're noticing that your appetites change. Does your heart rate increase when you think about coronavirus and I'm at work? You know, I get really breathless, my heart's racing, I get really sweaty, I feel like I'm tense all day. We come up with a really good formulation, and then I help the client to understand what it is that's keeping the problem going, because everything feeds into each other. You know, if you're feeling hopeless, you're not going to want to sleep, you're not going to want to eat anything. If you are watching TV all day, you're going to feel even more as though you're a failure, because we're not doing anything that feels purposeful or meaningful to us. So once we've got that understanding, we then, like I said, hit the ground running and engage in lots of different thought-based and behavioural-based interventions to change and break that cycle, essentially.
That answer your question? And breathe.
That was a great answer, that, you know. Wow.
I literally do it every day. It's my day job. Trying to explain
what
to
is
clients.
therapy? Well, this
Funny you should ask.
Tapping into what
I know exactly what you mean, though, because like when people say about coaching, what could you help me with? Like, well, and then it's like, it's not rehearsed, but it's not, it's like refined.
It's refined.
I know what you're asking, and this is an answer that way.
Exactly.
You've got that to a T.
Oh, thank you. Because I think it's really it's important, though, isn't it? I think because
there's a lot of questions around it.
Exactly, there's lots of questions around it, but I really do my best to help the client recognise that they can ask me questions too. You know, I think there's this big thing within mental health that people feel as though the therapist has all the answers. You know, exactly. You're gonna fix me. You know the answers to everything, and okay, I may have an understanding of what's going on and what we can do to help you, but you're always the expert on yourself. You know, you know more about you than I'll ever know about you, and it's a collaborative experience completely, isn't it? And I always say, like, it's less about the interventions and all, you know, the stuff that we're doing, more so about the relationship that we create together 100%. And how we bond and how have like an honest and authentic relationship, because that is the defining factor, I
Yeah,
think, of
it is.
therapy, really, isn't
Yeah,
it? 'Cause if you
definitely.
don't feel comfortable with someone, you're not gonna
get what you want to get out of it. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, really try and empower them to ask me questions too. You know, what your apprehensions about me? What are your thoughts about this? You
Yeah.
know, what do you want to really gain from this? What would make me a bad therapist? What would make me a good therapist? And how can we ensure that we're in line with those things for you?
Touching on that bad therapist, I spoke to someone a while ago, not professionally, this was personally, and they'd been to therapy and had an awful experience. I just thought, but they went back then and were like, oh man, I'm glad I went to a separate therapist. And I was like, I'm glad you've had that experience of going back again, because if I'd went to therapy the first time, or like,
It'd put you off for life, wouldn't it? Like if you had one of that experience, yeah.
This wasn't a client, this was just someone like a friend of a friend, a family friend, had spoke to me about coaching and was like, oh, when I went to therapy and had that experience, told me about this time that I knew about, and then he went to another therapist and he was like, it was a completely different experience. I was like, well, I'm glad you've took the step to go back because you've reaped the benefits, but some people may have had one bad experience and thought, no, therapy's not for me, this I'm doomed to feel like this. So
it's a brave thing to do, isn't it? God,
very
yeah,
brave
to
thing
go back.
to do, of course.
Absolutely.
And like you're saying there, it's ultimately, when I have consultations with clients, we're making sure A, you want to work with me, but B, we're going to be a match, because otherwise, like, there's different horses for different courses, as we said before, isn't there? But different pots for different pans, isn't it? Like, there is literally,
It's true.
It's a two-way street, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely,
if you have a positive relationship with like a person like yourself, a therapist or life coach, that's how you're gonna get the best
You're right.
best
100%.
goals out of it, and the best thing you want. If you have a horrible relationship, you don't want to see them. You could be like,
Exactly. Oh, I've got to go to therapy. Like, yeah.
Exactly. You dread it, don't you?
What I love about your page though is people know you before. Like, you've got that much content out there. They're like, oh yeah, I would go to here for therapy. So that's like, do you know what I mean? That's what's. It's just more conversation in the space, isn't it? Which is only a positive.
Absolutely. So fingers
It's
crossed.
just fantastic, yeah. It's boss.
because I've something to ask, because my girlfriend reckons I've got OCD, but like OCD is like sort of passed around like
It's a loose term.
it's a loose
isn't it?
term.
Yeah.
People think like because I like to fold my t-shirts up, I must have OCD. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot more to it than OCD, isn't it? Like
Massively.
it's
Yeah.
like. So like the people you'd see with OCD, is it like it was obsessive compulsive disorder?
Yes.
So the people you'd see on like a basis, is it like, does that go in your sessions, or does it just sort of like tone down in a way, if you get what I mean?
You're after a free session here, aren't you?
No.
So we have to joke. No, so good question. So are you basically saying, does therapy alleviate OCD, or does it
manage
just
it.
help people
Manage
to
it, yeah.
manage it? It depends on the severity of it. It depends on the impact that it's having on someone's functioning and how long they've had it for.
Yeah.
Often OCD people feel a lot of shame when they have OCD, and that means that again they take a very long time to actually seek the help and support that they deserve to have. So again, I can't answer that because it's very dependent. But I always say to people, don't expect therapy to fix. Whether it's depression, OCD, social anxiety, whatever it is that you come into therapy for, it isn't about fixing. It's about enabling you to become your own therapist, essentially, because that is what we all are, we all need to do. And even as us, I always say to people, even us as therapists, even though we've got all the tools, we've got all, the tools in the toolbox and everything else, but we still get sad. We still get worried. We still get
have
anxious.
a crisis, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doctors know exactly what to do to keep themselves well, but they still get sick because the human first, So yes, it can massively decrease the difficulties that they're having, but more than anything, it absolutely does equip them with the tools that they need to manage the difficulties that they're having much better than they would if they didn't get the support prior.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay.
Really well, yeah. Really well.
That's it. It's literally just equipping with the tools
Exactly.
to manage and recognise when something is, this needs managing.
Absolutely. This is
I love
slipping
it.
a little bit. What can I do here?
Yeah.
Like all of us do every single day.
Every day everyone does it.
Exactly.
Someone said to me once, everyone has a challenge on some level.
Yeah.
No matter whether you think
If it's minimal.
you're suicidal and you couldn't be any lower, or you're flying high, CEO of a business, and you couldn't have more money, but everyone's still got a challenge on some level, and the work's never done, is it? You're always going to have to work to do.
The work's never done, and like I think partly that's the beauty of life, isn't it? You know what I mean? The fact that there's always something new to learn. There's always
You'll
something
never know
to
what's
Always
over.
strive to be better, can't you?
Always.
Knowledge is
because-
infinite.
Absolutely, because when you reach that end point, there's always a then what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, no matter what you've achieved in life, like this podcast, incredible, and you've done it, you've ticked that off, but there's more that you want, you know what I mean? There's always more, and that's the fun of achieving those things, isn't it? And having a value-based life, you know, doing the things that you really value, because there's always more to strive for. And
it's the lifelong question, isn't it, though? The being present, but striving for something. Don't get carried away there, but don't get carried away here.
Exactly.
Like, it's a balance, isn't it?
It's
a balance. And
what a hard balance to find as well, though, isn't it?
Exactly. Because it's very easy to get caught in the future, and it's being fully present as well. That can often be like, I don't know how to explain this.
It's like
properly.
You can be proper career focused and like everything's your career. You don't really have much of a love life and a relationship with friends because you're that career focused.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might not be looking that much into the future. That your career might take an effect because you're putting more onto your family and your loved ones in a way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A client said to me last night, and I absolutely loved it. And I said, "Can I use that with clients?" And he went, "Yeah, go on." And
I'll let you go on.
I was like, so if anyone who watches this ever ends up being a client, or if any clients are watching this, like, I'm going to use this. And
expect it.
It's not copyright. But he was like, sometimes I think of my mind like an iPhone, and he was like, and you know when you go in your storage and like most of it's green for your apps and then your photos and your videos and your contacts, he was like, and you've got like 2 gig left. He went, that's taught up by work, the gym and that. And I've got 2 gig left. A gig might be ringing me mum and dad, or a gig might be going to the gym. And he went, and then I've got a gig for something else. He was like, and I just want to optimise that gig. And I was like,
that's great.
Wow. I was like, and he was like, but sometimes I'll clear out the storage, but then sometimes all my old photos will come back. And I was just like, what a metaphor.
What a metaphor.
Yeah, I was like, I've got similar metaphors in the bag, but that is spot on,
I like that.
And he's not even in the psychological field at all. And he's come up with that himself. I was
what
like,
an insight.
That is, I was like, that's life. I was like, yeah.
So if you're listening, Mr. Joe Blogs,
I'll send you the money later. But that's exactly essentially what it is you've only got a limited amount of energy, focus, battery life if you're thinking of an iPhone. Where are you putting that storage and the energy?
Exactly.
100%.
And the attention.
Literally, yeah.
But I love what you two are both doing because it's helping people so much. Whether it be, it might be minimal for some people, like it might be they want a little change.
The post might be enough, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It might be that gig. Somebody might want, they might have a new phone. I want to fill up my phone, do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
so that's where the severity is, and I love what you're doing helping people.
Thank you. I feel like, you know what, I think that like that's something that we're all doing. I think to some level, degree, that's what we're doing. So whether, I don't know, like you're a waitress, or you know, you make design shoes or whatever it is, it's giving a gift in some way, isn't it? Exactly. 100%. It's adding value in some way. And it's actually a book called The Gift, which is literally about, you know, everyone's profession being in some way geared towards helping the collective in some way and giving to others. And absolutely. I genuinely believe comedians, whatever it may be, making someone laugh like that, that's giving. You're giving. You want to connect and offer something in some way. And I think that's genuinely like what we all truly want as human beings, really, isn't it? To 100%. Help in some way.
To just help, absolutely. That's where I think when I realised I'm going to spend my life saving other people, like when I realised in that moment, I was like, that was when I was fulfilled. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I'm going to save other people. That was when I realised, like, this for me personally, based on my values, this is the highest I'll ever be in life, is knowing I'm going to start saving people now. Because ultimately, that is what we're here to serve. I think if you look back through history, through like religions, and it's always been about saving others, saving something higher than yourself.
And we've modernised it now, haven't we? Like you say that, you know, in history, but we've modernised it now, and it's still very much
a service-based industry.
It is. Life is
service.
How many PTs have we got on Instagram now? We're doing an incredible job.
Yeah.
You know, there's loads of them, but they're all doing such a sick job because they want to help people. They want to help people lose weight, get fitter, all of that, and it's amazing to see the tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That in itself.
Liverpool Podcast Studios is a service.
Exactly.
No, it is.
Absolutely.
We've
Little me five is getting passed around.
We live in.
What about we just put our fathers together?
Our society is a product and service based society because we're saving other people, and if you talk away money, I think the majority of people, human beings, are happy when they're giving something, saving other people, without expecting something back. Just an act of kindness, 100%. Like today, funny story, I went into Tesco and I was
do you know the story already?
I went into Tesco and Bow Street was quite empty, as you'd imagine, but there was quite a few like homeless people about, but like other people that was quite dead because work shut and stuff. And I was like, "Hi mate, you okay?" Some homeless fellow outside. I was like, "Do you want any, what's your name?" He was like, "Peter." I was like, "Do you want anything to eat, Peter? Do you want anything from the Tesco?" And he straight away went, "I'll have a pack of ciggies, mate." And I was like, he's got me there. I was like, yeah. Was there anything else? He was like, no. I was like,
I
fair
like
enough.
this.
I went, "Do you want a lighter?" And I thought, normally I'm like, "Do you want a drink or
Yeah.
anything?" But he was like, "Pack of ciggies." I went, I did say, "Do you want anything?"
Yeah.
If he'd have said a bottle of vodka, I would have had to buy it.
Yeah,
Do you
you
know?
would.
"Do you want anything?" I didn't say, "Do you want something to
Yeah.
eat?" And he went, "Yeah, pack of Marlboro Gold." And I thought,
Gotta respect the hustle, haven't you?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta respect the
exactly.
hustle.
Whatever gets you
Yeah.
through, yeah.
But if you took away money, if you asked someone if you won the lottery, what would you do? Once they'd been on the holidays and that, they'd be like, "I give to charity."
Yeah.
Straight, like maybe 5 or 6 down, but
Yeah, yeah.
eventually it's about giving back.
On the list somewhere, isn't
On the
it?
list somewhere.
Yeah.
I think the majority of human beings have that within them.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
100%.
Even take jobs away, just sometimes just being a friend, being a parent,
Exactly, yeah.
all of that. It's about, I want to be there for my friends, I want to be
Yeah.
a good mum, I want to be a good dad, I want to be a good uncle. There's always
Serving others.
there's always something to do with
Yeah.
serving, and
We
I
are a
think
collective
that makes us
species,
human.
aren't we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
My dad always says to me, collaboration always beats competition.
Yeah.
He said, if you and your mates work together on something
Yeah.
rather than who's going to be the best,
Yeah.
you'll thrive together. I'm like,
Always.
oh yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, that though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of going, you
I'm
can
gonna
do
be,
better
I'm
than
gonna
him.
make the I'm
Yeah.
gonna make the better shoes than
Yeah.
you. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
imagine if all the shoe designers come together, how good the shoes would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all learned though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's learned. It's learned in our society and in our culture. Who be from childhood, from when
Yeah.
you're in school, right? Who's gonna do the best of the homework
Yeah.
today? Oh, you're gonna get a star. Everyone, Jack got a star because he did really good. And you build
See
up
the way
that
she never said
mindset. don't
Jay?
you?
You know why? Because I got a smiley face on my top.
You got
Jay got
10.
the taken part medal.
But it's ingrained.
It
in
is
us,
from a
and
young age,
From
yeah.
a young
Yeah.
age, and even like getting older. What school are you gonna go to? Oh yeah, no, that's a better school. Oh no, you got to a better school
What
than
degree
me.
you get?
What grades
Yeah.
did you get? Interviews. Oh, it's literally
how much you're
within-
on? It's a metric, yeah.
Exactly, and it makes us believe that that's what we have to do in order
Yeah.
to survive and be successful. When really and truly you've got to question that, haven't you? Because
100%.
to what degree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got your success and stuff, but what else have you got? Who else have you got around
Exactly,
you?
yeah. First time I ever noticed that was, again, a family friend. He'd always say, wouldn't see him that much, but when you'd see him, he'd be like, people say, "How's work?" or "What are you doing for work?" or "Oh, you've got a girlfriend," and that. And this person that I know used to say, like, "You happy?" And I would just think, he always asked, "Are you happy?" Like, that was his first question above anything. And then you'd be like, yeah, then that led you to be like, yeah, I've got a new job and stuff. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, how's work?" And some people might hate the job and don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
But that question, "Are you happy?" I was like, that's what he values the
That
most, if you're
question,
happy.
yeah.
And not many people ask that
No.
when they see them. "Hi mate, okay, yeah, are you happy?"
Yeah.
How many people ask that question?
And even if they did, we'd probably all be like, yeah, sound.
You okay? Yeah, I'm
All
sweet.
good.
Yeah.
Broke a leg, broke an arm.
Yeah.
Good.
I got asked him the job I've got now on the job interview. Smashed it. The
Well done.
interview.
Got a gold star.
Got a gold star for it, but they said to me, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And I was like, oh God, I didn't prepare to this. So I just said,
Did you say that?
no.
Oh, you was thinking.
No, I was just thinking
prepare for this
thinking
interview,
speech
you know.
forward.
Soz.
Yeah. And then I said, I just wish you I'm as happy as I am right now. And they went,
such a nice thing to
you had
say.
the job beforehand, but that got you it like straight away.
Boss.
You rang me 10 minutes after I left.
No,
I love
is this
that.
a job that you got today?
No, I
No.
got this like last year.
Oh,
This was.
I see.
But it's the best answer I've ever had
That's
in life ever.
No, but
That's a good. It's a
but
good.
that's your
Yeah.
value as
Yeah.
happiness. This is why we get on, because we literally don't. Although you have to do things that you don't want to do in life, we've always said, like, we just make the best of situations.
Yeah.
He said to me once, we were camping and
Stung by a wasp, didn't I?
he got stung by a wasp, yeah, and everyone was like checking up on him, and I was like, "You all right?" And he went, "Fucking gonna have to be, aren't I?" And I was like, but like not even like snotty. He went,
We've got no antibacterial stuff. We've got Sudocrem.
yeah.
Gonna have to
And
be all right.
I gave him an
aren't we?
antihistamine, and I was like, "Are you all right?" And he went, "Well, I'm gonna have to be, aren't I?"
Yeah.
And then we spoke about it after that weekend, and I was like,
No, but the worst thing is that everyone was like, "Can I see you?" And straight away, I seen his face, so it was I
just
like
went.
that. And he went,
and he swelled up
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's sound lad.
Oh, good. Can't even notice it.
But when he went, "It's gonna have to be, isn't it?" We've actually titled an episode of the podcast, "It's gonna have to be, isn't it?"
Right.
Because that, like, his analogy of it was, well, yeah, this is what it is, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be.
I
happy.
can't do anything else about it, can I?
Absolutely.
Can't do anything else about it.
There was no Tesco on Coniston Lake.
Exactly, yeah.
Like a little
We're
pharmacy.
stranded, yeah. But you put your happiness first,
Yeah.
and like say likewise, and like that's what I like to empower my clients and friends and family. Everyone is just. I always say, I can help you achieve your goals, yeah, and I can help you become happy when you do. But ultimately, I want you to be happy right now and then get your goals and imagine how happy you'd be then. So that, what you said, I'm going to have to be, isn't it? I think that changed me in some way because I was like, what can you do about this situation?
Absolutely.
Be happy about it. And like, you had the best weekend ever.
Did
With a bee
you?
sting.
I have
You
my
look like-
jacket like that, like all the way to the
I
top.
love it.
swelled up and everything.
Swelled,
His head
like
was like
two
this.
heads.
Big, yeah, 2 heads. But that saying it's going to have to be, isn't it? Was very like, although that can sometimes be misconceived as
Let's go.
interrupting again. Time.
Carry on.
So that saying, it's going to have to be, isn't it? Although that can be misconceived as toxic positivity.
Yeah.
In that moment, that was a positive for myself. Like, everyone else was panicking and Jay was like, sad.
That was the calmest
He was the
bit, isn't
calmest
it?
I think, do you know what? No, I love that because I don't even think that's something you can class as necessarily toxic positivity. It's more so thinking about what's in my control versus what's not. Do you know what I mean? Right
Control
now,
the controllables.
exactly.
Yeah. What can I do
exactly.
about it
There's
now?
nothing I can do about it right now.
Yeah.
So rather than
Let's have a baby. That's what he was saying.
literally exactly, so rather than absolutely torturing myself and trying to, control things that are uncontrollable,
Yeah.
which is going to make me feel so much worse, I'm gonna have to just accept that right now this is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's
You know, what can I
stoicism,
do
you know,
about it? It's
stoicism, yeah.
exactly
That's a
that,
stoic
yeah.
mentality is, I can't do anything
There's
about
nothing
this.
I can do about this.
yeah.
Exactly.
So just
exactly.
accept it, yeah.
And that's a huge thing. That's
It is.
that's a massive thing that I try and teach clients as well. And I think it's often one of the things that contributes to feelings of anxiety because I think a lot of anxiety is very much about uncertainty, isn't it? But
And the
what if
need
this?
to
What if that?
control, yeah.
Exactly. But what if this? But I don't know this. And what if this happens? And there's very much about all the uncontrollables
Yeah.
because they're all very much future thought.
Yeah.
Anxiety is very much about what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen next. And obviously mindfulness is a great thing. It's a great tool for
course.
anxiety because it's about bringing your focus of attention back to the present moment.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the tools that I try and teach my clients to, help them manage anxiety is about focus of control. So, okay, that worry that you're having right now, what can you do about it right now? Well, not a lot because it's not happened yet. Okay,
Yeah.
so if it was to happen, what could you do about it then? Well, I could problem solve it by doing A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, what's going to help you instead of
Yeah.
worrying about that thing? Well, I could maybe just put it on hold and focus on this instead. And if and when that happens, then I'll address it. Amazing.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's, again, you're spot on about that. It's about control. It's about letting go of the things that you can't control,
Yeah.
which is life and uncertainty
100%,
because
yeah.
we all live in an uncertain world every single day and we survive it.
Exactly.
Every single day, we
Yeah.
get through it.
It's a miracle that you go to sleep at the end of the day
Yeah.
without some catastrophe happening.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, you could have
Yeah.
stepped off the fact you wake up and
Yes.
go to sleep and then wake up again. That's a miracle in
Absolutely.
itself. Like
Absolutely.
you've half the battle
Smashed
there.
it, yeah.
Literally
You
staying
smashed it.
alive as an
Exactly.
animal on planet Earth to get
Yeah.
through a day.
In the middle of a pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic. Woo. Yeah, literally. So,
Absolutely.
So well done on getting the job, Jay. You deserve it because you're positive as heck.
Plot twist though. Got a scar
Oh, no.
off the wasp. That's why I'm wearing this like this.
Oh, really?
really know.
Do you want me to make that next? I was going to say. I don't know.
But for
do you want to go coaching corner?
corner, yeah. In terms of the coaching corner this week, how long have we got left, Jacob?
What time did we start off past?
Just no, it's
Oh my
just
God,
just
about
after
20.
25
It's
to it
gone
was.
that fast.
Yeah, so we've got
Just
about
after
20 minutes
25
to
to it
wrap up.
was.
Yeah, it says 50 minutes on here, but I think we started recording a bit before we started.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
I
did.
think we actually started like 25 to yeah.
Yeah, so we'll wrap up. So
That's flown. I'm
know,
sorry.
it's-
Wow.
it always does.
Honestly.
So for the coaching corner this week, we thought the topic would be self-love.
And it's something you're quite big on, Nihad, isn't
It
it?
is.
the well-being lockdown.
Well-being lockdown.
Love it.
Yes.
Absolutely love it.
Thank
Fantastic. I didn't want to commit to getting involved
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be like, yeah, I'll do it and be like,
And then slip
but
it
I
out of
love
it.
it.
Don't
Love
worry.
it.
Oh, God.
Absolutely. It's
Thank
amazing.
you.
And
Thank
it's adding
you.
so much value to others as well.
Honestly, I'm loving it. It's brilliant to see everyone
I see it every day. I'm like,
involved.
doing the yoga there,
Well,
or
be
just like
looked at,
cooking
yeah.
a meal. Just like this,
In the mouth.
just positive, innit?
It's
Just
brilliant.
oh, it's fantastic. That
Thank you.
You're on the third round now, is it? Or the
Final round, yeah, third and final round. Now we've done. So I did it once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just to give everyone a break. And if you do something too much, it can get really boring and
Yeah.
like tedious, can't it? And feel like a chore. And I didn't want it to be like that. But we're on a final round of it now, and it's amazing. Honestly, the
Yeah.
messages that people are sharing. Seeing people take pictures and share it and seeing that motivate other people to get involved.
And community as well,
and
isn't
the
it? Yeah.
community, which is what your guide is about. It's really about sort of
Exactly.
trying to create a community where we're destigmatizing, sharing, talking, connecting, helping, all of that. So yeah, I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
It is fantastic.
Brilliant.
Is that something you touch on in your sessions a lot? Self-love? Is that kind of an underlying theme in therapy, really? Or
Self-compassion,
Self-compassion,
I'd say.
yeah,
Self-compassion.
absolutely.
So I think I try and stay away from the word self-love with most of my clients because I think people see it as like this vague, like really like large concept, like bloody hell, no, I can't do self-love. What even is that? You know, and it's really hard to define it because it's very subjective, isn't it? Self-love is something that is completely subjective to you. What your self-love is might not
going
be
for a
my
run
language.
could be my self-love, and you
Exactly.
getting a bath could be yours.
Exactly that. So I think it's more so about self-care and self-compassion.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think one of the most important things that, again, I try and teach people is about listening to themselves.
Yeah.
Because our bodies and our minds are so good at telling us what we need. And again, living in a very individualistic society where everything's about productivity and doing and being well all the time and being good and never showing what we call weakness or sadness. We ignore it. I gotta keep going. Well, yeah, I know I feel like crap today, but I've got to keep going. I need to do more. You know, and that is an act of self-harm more than anything, really, isn't it? Because what that means is that we aren't giving ourselves permission to slow down, and we're almost damaging our own selves.
It's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable.
Literally.
Exactly. It's completely unsustainable.
Yeah.
So yes, I talk a lot about self-care and a lot about self-compassion. It's a huge part of therapy, and if anything, it's probably one of the first things that I start talking about. We do lots of role play, you know, taking perspective, self-compassionate perspectives and things like that. But I suppose it's very much about thinking about how we treat others versus how we treat ourselves. We're all very good at being kind to other people.
Yeah.
We're all, as a whole, generally very good human beings who care a lot about other people, and we care a lot about our family members, our friends, our work colleagues and everything else, and we give amazing advice to them. But when it comes to ourselves, we punish. Yeah. And again, it's learned. We punish, and we think that recovery and healing can come from punishment. Oh, well, you need to just get over it. Stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, move forward, get on with it. Don't tell anyone, keep it to yourself, otherwise you're going to be seen as weak. That is not self-compassionate in any way, shape or form. And if anything, it keeps the problem going, because when we talk about those thoughts again, it's all those critical thoughts again, isn't it? Well, you're a failure, you're not good enough.
Relive the whole experience.
Relive the whole experience. Literally, exactly. So I say to people a lot, you know, well, if someone else that you loved and cared about was saying half the things that you say to yourself, you know, how would you respond to them? How would you talk to them? And automatically everyone's reactions, well, I'd never say that. God, that'd be heartbreaking for them to hear.
Yeah.
It would absolutely destroy them to hear those things. Oh my God, if my family, my mum, my sister, my daughter was suffering, I'd never say to her, God, well, you've lost your job, so you are a failure. And I was like, oh, what would you do instead? I'd be there, I'd sit with them, I'd give them a hug, I'd talk to them, I'd tell them all the amazing things that they are capable of doing and everything else. And, you know, it's like, well, why is it that you don't allow yourself to do that with your own self? And that's when it's like, oh my God, well, I don't know. It's the stuckness then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a lot of therapy for me in relation to self-care, self-love, self-compassion, it's about enabling people and encouraging them to get to a space where they're able to sort of give themselves that same loving and kind and understanding encouragement and advice and care that they would give to somebody else. And that I see always is transformative. Honestly, it just
crazy,
changes things completely. So as much as I love CBT, and obviously that's my focus in therapy, that's what I'm trained to do, I take a lot of techniques and interventions from compassion focused therapy, which is an actual whole therapy in itself, and sort of values focused work as well, because I think it's just huge. It's massive.
Incredible as well, because like positive, like self-compassion is, and compassion is one of like the founding values, not a founding value, like a fundamental positive psychological value. So like in terms of positive psychology, got like your gratitude, your self-compassion, everything else stems from that. So being, like you've just said there, explaining, what would you say if this was your mum or your sister? Your client will tell you exactly what you'll say. What would you do if someone asked you this question and they'll say, oh, well, I'd say to her, blah, blah, and you go, well, there's your answer. And it's something as simple as that is, if you, I believe, and therapists I think believe this too, and I know all coaches believe, is everything is within you. Everything you need is within you. I can guide you, I can give you a little bit of guidance and kind of,
but the potential and everything's in yourself.
But the potential is just there to become unlocked. And I believe that on a personal level, besides professional. And I see that as well with clients. I'm like, everything's within you. It's just kind of, it needs nurturing or watering or pointing in the direction. And clients always say to me, oh, thank you so much, you've helped me so much. I'm like, honestly, like, you may think I've helped you, but I've guided you, but you put the work in, and you've day in, day out, I've just
guided you. I haven't told you what to do. Yeah.
It's all on you, and
Absolutely.
especially in terms of like, if you go back to the PT example, people thank. I've got mates who are PTs and clients thank them all the time. Thank you so much for helping me, and they always say like, you put the work out, and I push you and stuff, but it's all about the self, isn't it? Self-compassion, and that is the ultimate act of self-love, is putting yourself in someone else's position and treating yourself as though you're someone you love the most.
Exactly. And I like the way that you said the word treat there, because it's not just about the mindset, it's not just about the thoughts that you have about yourself and the language that you use to speak to yourself and everything else. It's also the actions, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because you can think all of these great compassionate things, but if you aren't acting in a way that's consistent with those thoughts, it's not going to match up at all, is it?
100%.
Example again with the, using PT and again for an example, if a client is struggling with the eating habits or whatever it may be, and we're working on that in therapy, and they're like, well, I know that what would be really nurturing and good for me would be if I really actually hydrated myself more and maybe ate a little bit less of those sugary foods that swing my moods up and down. Okay, well, are we actually doing that? How can we practice that in real life? Because we can think it, but if we're not getting off the phone and then eating 25 packs of digestives in one sitting, every other day.
That'd be dry.
Not only would it be dry.
Not with a cup of tea,
Exactly. But also it wouldn't be self-compassionate, would it?
There's
a disconnect.
Isn't that what you're meant to do with them?
Which, eat all 25. I mean, I do, I'm joking.
But exactly, and it's all about, a PT can say, oh yeah, so there's your diet for the week. So because it's very relevant, the PT example with the mental health, because there's your diet for the week and there's the plan. But you've got to stick to your diet. You've got to work out and come to me for training. And it's the same as you can yourself. I can go through techniques, help guide, but ultimately between sessions, you're putting the work in yourself on the client level, aren't they?
Even taking it away from PT and therapy. Doctors, so you go to the GP, you've got a bit of a chest infection. What do? They prescribe some antibiotics. It's your choice to take them. It's no one makes the GP doesn't follow you home and go, right, okay, so it's the first pill today that you've got to take, whatever else. It's on you to do it, and you can choose to not do it yourself. So you going to the GP in the first place is an act of self-compassion and self-love, because you've obviously noticed something, you've recognised the problem, and you've sought the help. But then the compassionate action would be then to follow the steps that you've been given and to take the medication to help yourself, know. And that's everything. That's life as a whole, isn't it? How are we treating ourselves, and how are we speaking to ourselves as well?
100%.
Where's the connection between that?
What a section that was. Fantastic, literally.
Round of applause.
Say it's like a mic drop.
Stop.
Boss. But literally, like, it couldn't be more relevant right now, self-love, especially with a lot of people spending a lot of time with themselves. Like, that's who you go home at the end of the night with. Even if you're in bed with a partner, you're left with yourself at the end of the night, aren't you?
Exactly. You certainly are, and that means that you've got to nurture that person. You really do. You've got to really listen. That can't hone enough. I know you talk a lot about noticing and being aware and all of that, and it's such an important thing, and it's something that I try and do every single day. Again, as a therapist, I know it all, but I've still got to practice it, because what would be the point of me doing the work if I'm not actually experiencing it myself and living it? So you honestly, if anyone is struggling and listening and is having a really hard time, just start by listening. Start by really trying to think about what it is that you're feeling, where you're feeling it, what feels difficult, what feels odd, what feels tense, what feels good, and hone in on that and really use that to drive the actions that are needed to make things better.
Love it.
Great.
Boss. You've enjoyed this session, I can tell. Do you know what? I know he's enjoyed the session because he's very
zoned in.
Very zoned in.
I usually have a lot to say.
But he usually got a lot of questions and he wants to fire them off.
If someone's ask a question that you did before and you give it an amazing answer, I'm just like,
all my questions are answered.
What can I say after that now? You've answered every. It's been good this session, especially because love just listening, and just because you're both in sort of similar fields, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
In the same space, isn't it? Just helping.
Absolutely. That's what we want to do.
Exactly. And it's empowering, isn't it? I love when you empower someone and you just think, like, I always say to clients, ultimately, I don't want to be coaching you forever, and you don't want me to be coaching you. I'll always be here, but you're going to be on your own the majority of the time in life. It's about empowering you with the tools and techniques.
How do you guys feel you're coping with the pandemic? What kind of things kind of self-caring things or self-compassionate things do you guys feel as though you're doing individually that is supporting you through this? If you were to pick one thing that you think you're really actively trying to engage in, You as well, Jacob.
Grapes in the bath.
I was waiting for that. He sat up there. He's like, right,
That's
this is
what
my
people
time to shine.
think self-love is. Oh, eating grapes in the bath, listening to jazz with a glass of wine.
It is
That's
for
what people.
Jacob,
It actually is for Jacob. Yeah.
That's why I'm so chill.
That's why he's so chill, man. The ultimate act of self-love for me
During
is
this pandemic, especially.
during this pandemic. Wow, I feel like I'm being interviewed for a job, Jay.
Oh, yeah. Weren't expecting that.
The for me personally has been consistency.
Yeah.
My ultimate act of self-love is routine, morning and evening.
Yeah.
For me, I thrive when I've got a routine.
Amazing.
All human beings do. We're creatures of habit. We that's why the pandemic has pushed a lot of people in a completely different way mentally who've never experienced mental health before, because now their whole world's turned upside down. Oh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I've been going to the same job for 30 years and it's threw them in the air. If you can, and I say to everyone, if you can keep some sort of routine of a morning, get up at the same time, even if you're unemployed at the moment, get a shower, go for a walk, keeping that routine, it becomes your new way of life then.
Absolutely.
And for myself personally, that's helped. I've had to change up my routine massively, but keeping consistent to a routine is my act of self-love, because a day or two when I don't, I'm like, gotta get back on it. Gotta get back on it, because that's what's... Matthew McConaughey's brought a book out called Green Lights. I haven't read it yet, but the essence of this book was his memoirs and journals, and the reason he's wrote this book is because when things were going good in his life, he'd stop doing the things like self-care things to get him to that point, and then things would start going bad, so he'd be like, I'll read my journals, and he'd be like, oh, I'm not journaling, or like, oh, I'm not meditating, or I'm not speaking to my mum or going out with friends. So we always had the reference point of when things are going bad, what can I change? When things are going good, what can I keep doing to be feeling better? And it's journaling helps massively, because if you journal and reflect, you can recognise, oh, that didn't feel too good that day. Well, I didn't do this. And it's accountability. For me personally, is routine and journaling.
Yeah, huge.
What about you, Jay?
I've probably learned a lot about myself, and in a way, I've been stricter on myself.
In what way?
In a way of like, whereas back in the past, I might have just went out every weekend and drunk. I've like tried to tone stuff down. I've tried to be stricter, going to bed earlier, and just like, I haven't really been like massively, like you said, like I do have a routine in that, but I'm not. I do follow it, but don't massively follow it. But I just think I'd be more sort of stricter on myself and sort of a bit more loose in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not like thinking, oh, I've got to do this. I just think, don't care.
Yeah.
Routine's
like,
subjective
more
though.
flexible with yourself. Yeah.
My mum's routine is get up, make a cup of tea, and just stand in the garden. That she has to do that, have a cup of tea, and then she's there. She comes round. Other people's routine.
She comes round.
No, she does. My mum's like, I just need 5 minutes. Like, you know, whereas other people's routine is get up, you got your meditate, X, Y, and go for a run. Other people get up straight for a run. Your routine is subjective for you. There's
100%.
there's a lot of people out there like, you should be doing this, or you should be doing this, X, Y, and Z. Just go with what works.
It's what works for you.
And play with everything until you find something that works for you.
And that's the thing that enables sustainability as well, doesn't it? Because if you're following your thing and you're following your steps that work for you,
it's gonna
you've
work,
got to stick with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
because it's your thing. Then.
It's your thing. It works. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was
like
a great question. Do you want a job on the podcast? But after the third host, yeah. Boss.
Are we going to do
Topic of the week.
Yeah.
What was it?
You've thought.
Oh yeah, we'll make this one quick. If you could.
Go on.
If you could be an animal, what would you be and why? What's your spirit animal, Nihad?
I don't know. I really struggle with this question, you know.
I don't know what mine is. I asked myself this the other day.
Spirit animal. I want to... I feel like I'm bits of it.
I feel like you're a lioness.
Do you?
Yeah.
I
You're
never
fierce,
get that. I never get that. I get elephant.
Do you? You get told elephants?
I've been told.
You're wise.
Elephants.
That's why though. But it's because you're wise.
And I think there's something about like the collectivity of
family
and hair.
Yeah.
He's laughing.
Elephants are very caring as well.
They are very caring.
Yeah,
don't elephants look at humans the way we look at dogs? They think like they're cute and that.
Yeah, they do. They do, don't they? I have no. What would you say my spirit?
Like a lioness, maybe. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm a fierce person at all.
No, I don't mean fierce like scary. I just mean like, I don't know. You're driven. I don't know. You're powerful, aren't you? You're very like.
What a compliment, Jack.
You are.
Thank you. I've always wanted to be a lioness.
But you told me before you knew what you wanted to do and you've went and done it. Like that's like lions, mate. They get all the
They
glory.
do not
They
fuck
get
with
all the
lions.
glory. Not lions, but it's them lionesses that they go out and hunt the lionesses.
I
The
will
lions
take lioness.
You can have lioness
all
if you want.
day.
I'll
Oh
take
my
it.
god! I might just like record that section of the podcast and have it as
Keep
a
it, yeah.
ringtone.
Here we go. Jay, what would
Lioness.
my spirit animal be? And then Nihad can tell you yours.
Okay, let
What
me
would
think
your
then.
spirit animal be?
Yeah. Let's do this. This is well better
I
than
love
what
this,
we had.
yeah.
Or in fact,
Probably a guinea pig or a Syrian hamster for you.
Syria, thank you, Jay. One of our mates has got a Syrian hamster, and she's gorgeous. Called Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Oh,
I would say
Amsterdam.
meerkats.
A meerkat.
A
I was only messing with that
meerkat.
shot, by the way.
Yeah, we'll clip that. Why would it be a meerkat?
I don't know. You just like meerkats are always like keeping their heads up.
Yeah.
They're always just like really sort of positive.
Aware.
Oh wow, aware. I am very aware.
I'd be a
Aware.
sloth, me.
You wouldn't be a sloth.
Do you think you'd be a sloth? Why would you be a
Because
sloth?
I'm just chilled and just like that.
Jacob?
Cling.
I reckon Jacob would be.
Quite laid back, do you know what I mean?
Careful with your
Jacob's
No.
definitely either a cheetah or a giraffe.
Yes.
No, it would be like a. Jacob's would be a dog, like a domesticated dog, because they're so well looked after and they're so like.
Keep being fed the steaks and the
Yeah,
grapes.
being fed the steak, yeah. So that's what Jacob would be like a Labrador, pedigree Labrador. That's what you'd be, just like
One of our mates,
classy guy, red collar.
Literally,
Yeah.
in the park, like, don't talk to me. Just sniff me.
I want to be a cat that only eats like a certain type of
Salmon, like salmon,
Yeah,
a cat that
actually.
eats salmon, yeah, that's what
M&S
you'd be. M&S salmon, yeah.
designer cat.
Yeah, that's what you'd be, Jacob, yeah.
That's awesome.
A classy cat, called
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Gerald.
Yeah, Gerald, or like, I
Garfield.
don't know, like,
I'm joking.
Could be a true answer for you to being your spirit animal, by the way.
what?
I think a lot of people come to you for advice. Is there like any? I'm trying to just think of.
What animals come to other animals?
That monkey off the Lion King.
I was
Monkey
literally
off the
going to say
Lion
that. I was
King,
going to
yeah.
say, what's
Yeah.
his name? Is it Caesar?
I think it is. It's something like Caesar, yeah.
100%.
I got told
I
an
was
owl
thinking that.
once. An owl. They were like, "Oh, I reckon you'd be an owl."
An owl.
Because like the wires aren't they?
Mm.
And I was
True.
like,
That's a. Do you know what? That's a good point. That.
But I was like, I have always associated myself with dogs. I've always loved dogs, and I said, if I was having this conversation with Mum, you can't be a dog as a spirit animal. That's so like,
That's not
yeah, I'm a
spirit at all,
dog.
is
Yeah. But then
Who was
wolves.
I was a dog.
No.
Pedigree dog.
What I'm saying, I don't think that's your actual spirit animal. What I'm saying is,
You could imagine you as a dog, basically.
what I'm saying is, if you pick, oh yeah, dogs, like that's so like, oh yeah, dogs. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
vanilla,
yeah.
isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love dogs. I'll be a
Yeah.
dog. But you will be called. You'd be called like Mr. something as a pet. Mr. I don't know, like
You were telling me today your next dog. You're gonna call it Jacob as well.
no, you'd be like
He likes that.
I don't know how to explain it. How to explain the type of animal you'd be, Jacob, because. You're suave. You'd
Yeah.
have like a suit. Do you know what I mean? But like
100%.
you wouldn't have no suit pants on. You'd just have a shirt and a
100%.
jacket and a bow tie.
Yeah,
And you'd be called like
100%.
Mr. Whiskers or something like that. You'd just be
Yeah.
classy and just be like,
Any animals go for cameras and sound?
yeah. But yeah, that's
Or a zebra.
a zebra.
I
Yeah.
think I like zebras because they're very
Zebra.
majestic.
Yeah,
are majestic, yeah.
they are.
You
And
are
they're like-
majestic, like.
Yeah, and they're like. Well, how to describe zebras? Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like
Black
they're
with
very
white
laid
stripes
back.
on.
Well, yeah,
They're
that's
very
what-
black
that's
with
what
white stripes.
They're very laid back, but they've got a presence still. Do you know what I mean?
They own the room.
They own the room. Yeah.
Do you know if we were
Till
like a
the lioness
cartoon?
comes in.
Do you know if like
His
we were
head's
like
getting bigger,
BoJack
isn't it?
Horseman, where we were all different like animals? You'd come in here as like a zebra
Yeah.
in a suit.
I do not own a room though. I'm the opposite of that.
No, but zebras do. Zebras own the. No, not that own them. I don't know.
It's the presence.
You're
it's the
very yeah.
presence.
You're just
You're
you're suave.
there. Do you know
just,
what I mean? Like you've definitely got a presence.
You're just
Yeah,
like
you are. Yeah.
each week Jacob will say something and I'll go, Jay, mate, there's just so much we don't know about him, you know? Because he just says, like, you just say something
This is
like,
what I mean.
for example, about, like, you told me, I don't know whether you want to include this in the podcast, but you get a massage a lot. So I said, oh, well, you go a lot. Have you got an injury? He said, oh, when I was younger, I broke my back in gymnastics. And I was like, there's just so much we don't know. And then
It's
he
the
told us he
mystery of
met
it, isn't
Nile Rodgers. And I went,
Wait, who's Nile Rodgers?
Of Chic. You know Nile
I
Rodgers?
don't know what who Chic is. The band.
Chic the band.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Nile Rodgers
Yeah.
anyway. He told us he met him, and I was like, what? Like, okay, what else do you know, Jake?
So zebras, the mysterious. Don't really know a lot about zebras, do you? Like you just
No.
know they're there. So Jacob, he's there, but you're always learning something new.
You all
about him,
used to be
aren't
at, who is this Jacob we're talking
Exactly.
of? This guy.
I'm not
This
even on
guy?
camera.
No, literally,
That's actually,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that.
Exactly that.
Boss.
I've
like
been
that.
compared to a Labrador by a few people.
You are very
You're a
Labradorish.
golden retriever.
You're a golden retriever,
I know.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's why
Golden retriever.
sometimes I'm just like that. And you might see me with a little bone playing
Just
around,
a bowl of water on the floor.
licking myself for it.
I've always said you're like a puppy because you get really excited.
Yeah.
What do you do like that?
You are, yeah. Boss. That went better than expected for the topic. It's a good segment, isn't it?
And
Nihad's going to want the last 10 minutes clipped for the Lioness.
All of that.
Do you get what I'm saying with Lioness, though?
No, honestly, I've never. Every time me and my friends ask each other these questions, I was like, what superpower would you have? Like, I'm a proper questioner. Like, I love asking questions and playing
Like
games
that,
and stuff like that. Actually, before dinner, I would rather have a stone in your shoe or wet socks.
Yeah.
Just like to know information. It's like,
You can never know
exactly.
enough.
But wait, what did you just
A
ask me?
lioness.
A lioness.
Have you never had that?
No one has ever said lioness ever to me when I've asked that question. Ever. I've had koala bear, elephant, other things apart from lioness, and I've always wanted that. You know, I really have.
Do you know what that feeds into?
What?
There might be one of you, but there's like a million different versions of you out there. To someone who's met you once when you might have not been on your best day, or there's people have different perceptions of it, and maybe your best friends who've gave you the elephant title, they'll know you a lot more than me. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I'm not saying you're not a lioness. I'm not taking away from that.
Take it away, Jack.
I've got it now. From what I know of you, the relationship we haven't known you all these years, like that's just what jumped to mind for me.
I think, do you know what though? I think that's an interesting point they make there, because we all must have we all have different personalities, don't we? So we all have different spirit animals in us, depending on the context, probably.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
maybe like Jacob with his family, or Jay with his family, and you with your family is very different to what you would be in this room.
Go
you know
home
what
and
I mean?
ask what spirit animal would you be. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
That
Wouldn't
is
it?
interesting. Yeah, like ask Christina. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna
What do
do
you
that.
think
Yeah.
she'd say?
What we'll do is like text your family,
Yeah.
and we'll all ask your family. Yeah, we'll all text our
I
families.
feel like my family would be really rude though about
Yeah,
it.
no,
Like
same.
my
My
brother
mum
would be like
a pig.
He'd be
My mum would be like a pig
snake.
because you stink. Yeah. A pig because all you do is
Literally.
eat. Yeah. That would be what it'd be.
They'd just like ruin us, wouldn't they?
My parents would say monkey because when I was a kid, I used to
climb everything. Yeah. You said that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Boss.
Look at
I
that.
love to be a monkey.
Yeah. Just chilling all day.
I'd love to be. I always, if I go out on a night out and go to work the next day on like a little sleep,
Yeah.
I'd look at the dog and it'd be asleep in its basket, and I'd be like, what I'd
What
do
a
to
life.
be you right now.
What
Just
a
to like,
life.
for my whole day was just that.
Enjoy. Literally. All day.
And somebody struggled me on the belly and that.
All day. With no bills to pay.
No bills to
Getting
pay.
fed.
Literally.
Don't have to go to work. Like, hey, I want to go out. Open that door.
Getting took the field to run around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I took you to Sefton Park before.
We played fetch.
I was there with a frisbee.
Oh, should we do album of the week then?
Yeah, we should.
So album of the week is TL Pastor Barrett and the Youth Choir.
The Youth Christ, Pastor T.L. Barrett and the Youth Christchurch Choir.
Yeah, there we are.
Boom.
Clip me out.
Did you listen?
I listened, it was amazing.
Mate, it had me putting my hands up in the air saying hallelujah.
No, I
was
did.
going around the kitchen like, glory.
I did. I
Absolutely
just wanted to praise the Lord. That's what I heard, didn't I?
That is the message. That is
Yes.
what he set out to do with
It's
that album
incredible.
is make you praise the Lord.
Yeah.
But plot twist.
Plot twist. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, you mentioned there was a plot
He was a con man.
What
Yeah.
do you mean?
He was a
con man?
1,600 people in a pyramid scheme and made over 2.2 million involved in it.
And that's how he
You're
funded the
kidding me.
album.
He said it was
That's how
me.
he funded the album.
Apparently so.
And he
That's
had,
how he said-
I don't know, he might have. He might have.
That is so
But a lot of people used to go for him to inspiration, like Earth, Wind and Fire, like Isaac Hayes, loads of big people involved in music would go and see him because he was from Chicago. And like, I think after this album, a few years, like Aretha Franklin done like a gospel album. There's quite a few people who did like follow up to
He made
this.
gospel cool, didn't
And
he?
and they reckon this was like the album of the era. This is what started it off, and it was like a crossover, like gospel and like funk and everything
funk
like
and
that.
like it's got everything in it. It's like
Everything.
soul,
Everything, yeah.
gospel. It was it was incredible.
So he was actually a con man in a way, according to the internet anyway.
According to Wikipedia.
Is he still alive?
I'm not too sure, but back in 1998, he agreed to pay 102 million in compensation back to people. I
He
think.
had that.
Do you think he had
He had
that?
Says it
loose
all,
change
doesn't it?
for my man. What? How much? Okay.
No problem.
Have it. Double it. But that's false profits.
But it
for you,
come in
isn't
like-
it? Literally, like
Interesting.
beware of
Actually,
false
the
prophets.
band started off as a after-school club, and it was
my
just like people
God.
in the church coming into like.
to get off the
It
street.
was Zion Church, I think it was, which was
Boss.
the place is called on Matrix as well.
Isn't that name? Zion, that comes up in
Isn't
a lot
Mount
of
Zion
songs and
like a
stuff, doesn't
place
it?
in like that's like a big thing in Rastafarian, isn't it?
Is it?
Mount Zion.
Well, it's the place in
Yeah.
the Matrix.
It's a religious place, Mount Zion.
It is,
yeah.
isn't it? I thought
is.
that.
The
I've
place is Zion where
heard of that.
everyone's
In
in, a
the earth, in the
simulation.
deep earth.
Everyone's in the simulation, the deep earth, and
Is
where they
Zion.
are is Zion. Yeah,
I see.
Okay.
there's a tune on the album called Zion, and it's amazing.
Interesting.
Boss. Jay does all the album research.
I love it.
Yeah,
Were you
90s.
surprised by that information then? Because I'd be like, whoa.
I had to I seen
Double
it.
take.
I read it and was like, I'm gonna have to read up more about him. And then everyone was saying he was a bit of a con man, but
wow.
obviously there's three sides to every story.
Yeah.
Yours and mine, and then the truth. So we don't know.
But the truth is, he makes unbelievable music.
And
either way, that music is
he didn't get me with any pyramid schemes. And if you ask me, they're stupid for giving them the money.
If you ask, I'm going to separate the artist from the art, mate. That art is fantastic.
It is art.
Wow.
And it's as you said before, it was quite similar to William Onion, and the reason why it is because the music's not for him. It's not for the singer who's got a good voice. It's for God. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
And he used to sell.
Sorry, go on.
He used to sell music. He used to do talks and sell the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the message
got across.
It got across. And he was obviously an inspirational person.
Absolutely.
If he's made 2.2 million on pyramid schemes.
Yeah,
he's got a big artist.
He was a zebra. He owned the room. He was taking your money out of your pocket and putting it in his own. He controlled that room.
But since Kanye West has
similar thing, innit?
sampled his
Sunday
music,
service.
Sunday service, and it's a lot of people will look back at him and say without his music we don't have the music we have today.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was loads of songs that I recognised.
Nobody knows has been sampled you wouldn't believe.
After we moved track of the album.
Because it was released, what was it, 70s?
1971.
Gosh, 1971. My God, it's facts, I was in 71. I love it.
On the 14th of June.
As Jacob said to me earlier though, did you know 67% of statistics are made up on the spot?
Are they actually? Are they actually? Oh, you just made that up. Honestly, how gullible I am. Honestly,
that was
spellings, didn't I?
I said you're 42% more likely to do something when you write it down.
Right.
And he went, it's just you're 67% of statistics are made up on the spot.
What did you say?
I went, haha.
So
Save that for the podcast.
I can't believe you really?
No way. Wow.
Yeah. But I said it in person, so it was delivered. You responded. I read that and then got to think about it.
Exactly.
So
Thanks
I'll
for
give you
letting me
credit
off, Jack.
there.
I appreciate
that. Don't worry. Being very kind today.
You
I've
are.
been very kind
I'm
to you.
really, really grateful for it.
But yeah, Jacob said I've got my dad to thank. It was a proper dad joke.
Such a dad joke.
60% of the time it works every time.
What's your album of the week?
My album? Oh, I gotta choose one.
To pass on to next week's guest and us to listen to.
Ooh. Okay, so my album of the week.
I love that you didn't know. So it's
didn't know.
This is great.
Right. Do I get to know who's coming on next, or is it just?
Don't think of it the next guest. Think of you.
Just something we should listen to that you love.
Yeah.
Or something that means something to you.
I want you guys to listen to some Afrobeats.
Same.
I'd really like you to listen to Afrobeats. So listen to WizKid's album. I think is it called? Can someone go on Spotify for me? I can't remember the name of the album.
What's the singer called? Sorry.
WizKids. So WIZ.
Whiskey Hotel India Zulu. I've got no signal music. Lad.
Do you know, I don't know whether this is classed as Afrobeats, but do you know, back in the day, I was probably about 16, 17, do you know I got into massively because of one song, Egyptian, If It Hold You. I heard that tune and was like, what is this tune? And I proper delved into is that classed as Afrobeats?
No, it's not Afrobeats. That's more like, is he Bashment?
Bashment,
or is he sort of
because I've listened to Damian Marley and Nas, that album they done, and then I was like, leaning that way, and then I heard that tune. I can't think where it was. I was like, what a tune this is.
It's a good song, isn't it?
But then I dived into his whole back catalogue. I was like, this is some good music.
Feeling it.
Yeah. So what's the difference between what's Afrobeats? What's that kind of?
Afrobeats is more so it's music from Africa, it's more like African music, but with a bit more of a hip hoppy flavour to it. It's like modernised.
So is it popular in the charts, Afrobeats?
Oh my God, massively.
Okay, so it gives an example of a tune that we'd know.
Burna Boy, yeah.
Oh, I love Afrobeats. I just didn't know that's what it was called. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love all that.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's very rhythmic. Exactly.
I love African music.
I think it began. Did it originate in Nigeria or Ghana? But there's a lot of popular artists, Afrobeat artists from Nigeria and Ghana who were collaborating with a lot of hip hop artists, and it's just incredible.
In Love with a Lie?
No, it's the one where he's wearing a white on white outfit.
I'll just spell Wiz.
WIZ.
Yeah, just one.
Just one. KID.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he's wearing the white. Oh, Made in Lagos.
Made in Lagos. There we go.
Yeah.
That's the one.
What's the album cover?
Made in. It's just him in white clothing.
Oh,
white back.
Because I love.
Listen to play Essence first. I mean, obviously start from the beginning to end, but
there's a psychedelic and funk compilation album called Made in Lagos.
Yeah.
And it's Only You.
Yeah.
And what else?
Have you heard of William Onion?
No. William
you are gonna,
Onyeabor?
yeah, so he's a
No.
Nigerian like music producer, but way ahead of his time electronically. It was once the album of the week, but we delved into him a bit. But there's a documentary about him. But no one knew who he was or where he was getting his funding from or anything. Like there was theories that he went to Russia and had money off the mob and things like that. His music is unbelievable. He's got like a high quality back catalogue, but then he just disappeared.
He made music
and went
for
to
his,
become
like-
a pastor. He
No
made music for a
way.
few years, but his music's incredible.
Wow.
I'll send you his album.
Send me-
now.
yeah, I was gonna say.
He
send
got
it to me.
somebody rang him up and was like, "What do you think of your music?" And he was like, "I only want to talk about God," and put the phone down.
Yeah,
You're
why would they
kidding
talk
me.
about anything other than God?
Wow.
That's what he said.
Oh wow.
I know. But
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm
good
interested.
album. I'm excited for this Afro.
I know,
Yeah. Oh, I
Something
hope you
different
guys
as well.
love it.
I love
yeah.
African music,
Do
especially the
you?
oldest. Like
Some
I
of the
don't-
best music about.
I don't know,
honestly,
like,
It's, it just speaks to
You
me, and
feel,
people
don't
always
you? And you're like,
feel it, and people
Yeah.
say like, "Well, what are they saying?" And again, I don't know half the things that they're saying
Yeah,
because a lot of
but
it's
you
from
get it, you
Nigeria,
just-
and
yeah,
I
you
don't
don't
speak
you don't
that
have
language.
to. It's like
music is the universal language.
It really is. You just feel it, don't you? You feel it, and if you can feel it, and it's just speaking to you in some way, even if you don't understand the words, then it's good music, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it
And
is.
this album is fantastic, so I would highly recommend.
can't wait for
But
it.
that's getting
Can't
on
wait
the way
till you
home, that.
And
Or
then-
will I not sleep tonight if I've got that on the way home? Just
Actually,
like,
of course you will. Of
You
course
will,
you will,
you too.
Jack.
yeah, I've got my tea.
You've
Yeah,
had you've had
I've got
you've
the
had
bees
these.
boss. So on that note, do you want?
Go on,
Orange or blue?
Oh,
blue.
yeah,
for your
I knew you
guide.
was gonna pick that. Hashtag
Okay.
Brandon.
Open the
Yeah.
book.
Brandon. Yeah, and just read any.
Have a little read of it first.
Yeah.
Open the page on a
Okay.
random thing and then.
Do you know any dad jokes?
I'm so bad at judging.
Oh,
Dad
yeah,
jokes, you know.
okay.
I'm really
Yeah,
bad
you
at
didn't get my
jokes.
one before. Like.
Exactly. I'm just not good at them.
You walked into that one.
You know,
I know.
we need to cross out the ones that have already been read. You know.
I was gonna say because I
we
want to repeat
really
one.
do, you know, because everyone.
Luckily, no one's read the same
Yeah.
one before. I don't think.
That we have. They did on the Sunday the other day. I noticed one of them.
Really?
Yeah. It was. They done a few though, but they'd only be done.
Listen to this one. Sorry.
Go on.
A vegan. People who sell meat are gross. Me. But people who sell fruit and veg are grosses. That is unbelievable.
I love it.
I love it.
Right, I've got one. This is boss. This made me laugh internally. I quit my job as a postman after the first letter they handed me to deliver. I looked at it and thought, this isn't for me.
I don't get it.
Do you not get that?
It isn't for
He
me.
looked at the letter and thought, oh, this isn't for me.
Right, yeah.
Slow burner,
Brilliant.
isn't it?
Slow burner,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Do you want me to cross out that one? Or are you
That-
going to
we've
just...
fucking- we're 23 episodes in and we haven't crossed one out.
Lucky.
But yeah, last section. What have we learned today? I've said it to you before that I love what you're doing, helping each other. But what we've learned is a new way of, well, not a new way, but it's another way to look
Just
to
another
help
approach to
yourself.
looking after yourself, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
every way, some works more for others. But if you want to get involved with Cause Yourself Nihad, get in contact with us. Get in contact with Nihad.
Your
Your
guide
guide,
therapy.
Your
Therapy,
guide therapy. Same for here, the Epiphany Coach.
Yes,
You want to plug anything,
absolutely.
Jack? What else we're on the section?
Herbaholics, man.
Yeah.
What about your mindfulness thing that you're doing?
Make sure. What, sorry?
The mindfulness? Are you going to plug that?
Yeah, but this is your podcast. Isn't it?
Oh, go on then. Herbaholics, of course, needed. Yes.
I hope that bit has to stay in. You know, yeah, I didn't know. Don't worry about it.
Humble.
Yeah, humble AF. Just grounded. No, I'm messing. No, Herbaholics, give them a follow. Unbelievable. And
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. And the bee's knees.
Bees
And
knees.
that's time.